Welcome back to Word on the Rock. So I'm talking today to Robert Beringer, and we're discussing I was going to say a compilation, an inventory, which is from our library point of view, we can call a book, although it's not it's not wrapped up in the usual way. It's entitled "Aging and LGBT End-of-Life Planning," and so we've been discussing why one needs to do end-of-life planning, and why this is even more acute a problem for LGBT people. So we were talking about focus groups and what you were doing, because that's the way that the program has started, and there's a lot of work going on and will be going on in the future. So
sure.
Last week was the
focus groups were held in August and September in Vancouver, right. And so actually I don't want to talk too much about the focus groups, just because that was not my part of the project. My section was basically the inventory development, assistance with the town hall, presenting the inventory, and then upcoming will be development of the website. However, I jotted down a few notes, just highlights of the Vancouver focus groups, and actually they segue from what we were talking about stigma. The gay and lesbian groups both voiced concern over burdening friends with end-of-life responsibilities. You know, they felt their friends had their own lives. In the transgender group, a theme of rejection from family evolved, and they considered peers and family who had support to be the lucky ones. Similarly, the groups felt there needed to be more education about the needs of LGBT people as they age. That sort of connects to the idea that trust was a big concern. The gay men in the groups worried about being taken advantage of by more distant family who may have to care for them. So, you know, going down that list of spouse and things that you don't have, and maybe you end up having a niece or nephew caring for you, and you feel kind of distant. They had some concerns that, you know, maybe they'd be taken advantage of. And the trust had overlapped with the community concerns, and specifically lack of LGBT housing for seniors. And there's a pressing problem of inclusivity in the housing options that exist. In the development of the resource inventory, we identified only a handful of care facilities that were LGBT friendly. Also, one of the things with care facilities, we're starting to evolve where we have developing programs in place where they train the staff. They have LGBT sensitivity training programs, and this is great. It's a great step, you know. But you train the staff. One of the issues, however, is that there's also a building full of residents. These residents are their peers. Their peers grew up in that same period. They grew up in a period when, you know, for a long time it was illegal acts, homosexuality. It was a psychiatric disorder. So that's where their background of homosexuality is. So that is kind of a problem, is that, you know, we can train sensitivity with the people who run the care facilities, but it is difficult. The residents can be a source of issues as well.
Of course. Well, right. Now, one of your particular job was acquiring this list of resources that will be available. And could you tell us a bit about that? Because this is something you must have spent. I mean, it would be quite a tedious matter of getting that long list.
Basically, I took I conducted internet searches between November and December, pretty much 2 full months of going through the materials, and I had people suggest materials too. But I combined search terms like LGBT and gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. As I went on, I found I had to pick up more terms. There were things like you had to look at sexual orientation to see those words and things for inclusiveness. I combined those with end-of-life planning, advanced care planning, financial planning, independent living, and so on, different things about housing. What we wanted to do is look at how these organizations are LGBT friendly. And at first it was kind of, it felt a little bit random. It's sort of a project that evolved, and you know, we were looking at if they were referred by people or if they had LGBT statements in their missions on the websites. So we ended up coming up with a friendliness evaluated on 3 tiers or levels. And first level is LGBT organization, and that refers to an organization designed by and or for LGBT persons. And then we had another designation, LGBT friendly formal organization. And this is an organization that advertises LGBT friendliness on their website by way of some specific statement. We sort of drew the line at a few websites would have generalized statements about, we're inclusive to all, but we were looking for something directed specifically towards LGBT.
Right.
So if they had it, if it wasn't LGBT specified, we didn't put them in the formal category. The LGBT friendly informal is the third sort of tier. This we're looking at these. They may have been referred to us by community service providers, or they may advertise as LGBT friendly somewhere, like on a LGBT directory. However, when I go to the sites, if it didn't mention LGBT on their own site, then they would be informal.
Yeah.
So that's what we came up with. And initially we have 54 items to include on the inventory. And the categories, we have health and wellness, legal, social support, spiritual and faith-based organizations. Actually, surprisingly, it's a well-populated category. It was there's a lot of they seem to reach out to the LGBT community. Caregiving and home support, housing is another category. We broke that down, and assisted living and residential care and independent living, and then also some housing specific to people who are living with HIV/AIDS. And then finally, we had the funeral burial services section.
Gosh. Well, so this we can. Well, you got what? 54.
That's right. And actually, we've I have another 8 editions for the at our town hall meeting where I presented it. We had an exit survey and we asked people to make suggestions, and I had about 10 suggestions, and 8 of them were qualified to put on the inventory. So when we redo it and publish it on our website in a few weeks, that'll have the updated version. One of the things we didn't find with doing the work is that end of life planning resources. And these are specific. I wanted people to learn about wills and estates and how to make representation agreements and power of attorney and those kind of things. I didn't find anything that was LGBT friendly in that regard. So in the inventory, we published a section that discussed links where they could find information. Because I found in my previous work working with seniors, one common theme was that they had trouble navigating the system.
Right.
And so this is just point them in the direction of the right information. And so that's how we got that together.
Well, that suggests that an addition that's going to be necessary is places where they can go to get computer training.
That's true. That's true.
Well, to get practice on how to search around for things that they're looking for.
Well, that is one of the positive aspects of the last 8 years of internet use among seniors is growing. Actually, right now, I just read a statistic that the fastest growing segment of internet users or of computer and internet users is the senior population. So there's a high rate of adoption, which is great.
Yeah. And then using things like Facebook.
Absolutely. I've even noticed here in Salt Spring that I see on my Facebook, I have a lot of friends who are now 70s, 80s, and things like that. So they started using profiles. One of the things I wanted to mention is that as a positive note, we put the inventory out. We're hoping to, see if it is a good resource. And I was happy that immediately one of the service providers who's listed in the inventory, he went and changed some logo on his website and made the website LGBT friendly formal as opposed to LGBT friendly informally. He wanted to go up the rankings, and so I thought that was like a positive sign, that someone wanted to make that change.
And I can imagine that as time proceeds, that you'll be adding things to the list as more information becomes.
Absolutely, we want to keep updating the inventory as time goes on, and with our next step with the website, it's we're going to have a forum where people can, contribute to conversations, and ideally they'll have a place where they can suggest additions to the inventory, make comments about the inventory, and just talk about, end-of-life planning issues. I should just repeat that. The URL is going to be www.lgbteol.ca. And so that'll be the website, and we expect that to be up in a few weeks. And
Yeah.
That's where we're going with
Well,
that.
that'll be great, and that's something that you can install in libraries as well. As for so if people don't have their own computer, you can go to a library and then just call up that whole thing as a book. And so
Absolutely.
they
And I
don't
was
need
thinking that
any
I was thinking of once we have the website up and running, I would get at the library here, ask them to maybe put a sticker on the front of the inventory, just mentioning that it's will be updated from time to time, and have the web address there.
Yes, that'll be very good. Well, I'm sure. Well, the library is an information exchange
Yes.
place, not just a place where you go and get books and so on, and because they have all sorts of things on.
Well, if anybody's interested in sort of having a look at any LGBT information right away, I have a small amount on my own website.
Yeah, I
And,
think we mentioned that website too. That the URL. I thought I had it noted down here, but I don't. Somehow it got.
Well, my own company is Vibrant Living and Lifestyle Systems, and my website's www.vibrantonssaltspring.ca.
And it's all one word, Vibrant on Salt
Yeah,
Spring.
so that's all one word, vibrantonssaltspring.ca. And I've been putting a bit of information up about LGBT aging there too. And once we have our site up, I'll have a link to that from my own site as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that as more gets known, you'll get more feedback, and this is a kind of a growing thing. You've done an awful lot of work, but it's not finished. It's a project which will, I guess, continuously capable of having additions made to it, and because it's on the web, then that can be done. Not with a stroke with a pen, but with a few
Strokes, keystrokes.
Careful,
And well, I started last time I was here, we talked about technology and aging, and now we're talking about end-of-life planning. And for my dissertation research, I'm planning to do rural and small-town aging. So hopefully I can have a lot of participants from Salt Spring, because we're going to qualify as the group. So I'd like to get right into the community and do the work here. It'd be fun.
Well, something like Facebook would be very good, because that way people can communicate.
Absolutely.
Not just with you, but with you, but also with a lot of other people who share the same sort of concerns and interests. Well, it would seem that this is meeting a very real need, and in fact, I guess we're all getting more concerned about end-of-life planning. And certainly this special group, but in fact, end-of-life planning is something which many people are becoming much more aware of, and the need for. And as you mentioned, they say this is a good thing, if you ask them. But if you ask them, have you done it? I think you probably still get similar results.
That's true.
It may be 70% or 80% say yes, it's important, but few of them. So, okay, well, this is the end of our program pretty well today. It's our time is up, and this is...
Well, thanks for chatting. It's great to chat about end-of-life planning and the LGBT community.
I'm sure it's really useful to bring all this information, and you've clearly done an awful lot of work, and we certainly wish you well in your studies and getting this work done. And thank you very much for being with us today.
All right, thanks.
So that's Word on the Rock for this week, and do tune in next Friday at 10 o'clock for Word on the Rock. My name is David Hart. Goodbye.